Welcome to Soul of Travel, Women's Wisdom and Mindful Travel. I'm your host, Christine Weinbrenner-Eyrich. Each week, you'll hear me having soulful conversations with women who are tourism professionals, trailblazers, and community leaders around the world. They share their personal and professional journeys to inspire you, and their stories teach you how to become a more conscious traveler, live life aligned with your values, and create a positive impact. We are thought leaders, action takers, and heart-centered change makers, and this is the soul of travel. Jalisa Whitley creates the containers and processes that bring people together to connect, collaborate, imagine, and create the places, spaces, and structures that will get us free. The current iteration of that work is as founder of Booked Trips, a travel company that connects curious and community-minded women through book-inspired experiences. She believes that books create bridges across difference and a platform for talking about ideas and issues that bind us. Through her work, she uses tourism as a tool for connection and leverages her work to invest in and tell the authentic stories of Black and Brown communities around the world. Outside of her work in travel, Jalisa has been active in the nonprofit community as a professional, volunteer, and board member for over 14 years. Jalisa is passionate about connecting communities to opportunities to elevate their impact, co-create solutions, and implement sustainable change, and has done this work through her company Unbound Impact. The common thread throughout her work is a commitment to uplifting the imagination, possibility, and solutions that already exist in communities made vulnerable by divestment and systemic harm. Jalisa is committed to using her platform to resource, connect, and be in service of change agents working toward our collective liberation. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, travel, and engaging with music, theater, and the arts. In our conversation, Jalisa and I talk about our love of books, deep conversation and storytelling, and connection in travel. She shares how her early travel experiences, education, and previous career have all shaped the way she views travel and the experiences she offers. She shares a bit about participating in the Women's Work Tourism Accelerator and the value of community in business creation, and also shares the most beautiful list of books that she finds herself recommending over and over. Join me now for my soulful conversation with Jalisa Whitley. Welcome to Soul of Travel Podcast. Today, I'm really excited to be sitting down with a women's work alum. I know a bit about her business, but this is going to be a great opportunity for me to learn more and share more. So I'm so excited to welcome Jalisa Whitley to the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited about this conversation and to delve into the areas of synergy we have. So, the women's work connection. I know you also love books and do the soulful book sojourn. So, just really excited to talk.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. When I saw your company at first, I was like, is there anything better than books and travel based on books, like living a book? I'm like, this is the most brilliant concept ever. Um, but before we get too far, Jaleesa, I want to just turn it over to you and give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our listeners and give them a little bit more of an overview of book trips.
Sure. So, my name is Jalisa Whitley, and I'm the founder of Booked Trips. And so, Book Trips is for women who crave meaningful book inspired journeys. So, I like to say we're an immersive small group travel company that connects curious and community minded women who want more than just a vacation. So, unlike traditional travel companies, we offer one of a kind experiences that bring stories to life. So we build deep connections, unforgettable experiences, and a sense of belonging in the place we explore by helping people go from the pages of some of our favorite books to the places that they're set in.
Awesome. I know this is going to be for my listeners one of those fangirl sessions, so just be prepared. It's fine.
I love book people. Those are my people. So happy to mutually fangirl.
Yeah. Okay, so before we learn about where you are, I'd love to take it back a little bit and get a better understanding of your relationship with travel. Did you travel when you were younger? Was this something that you knew you were interested in, or how did you find travel?
I did not travel much when I was younger. So I grew up in Geneva, New York. It's a very small town in upstate New York. And we would take road trips to Virginia to see my oldest sister. Um, and we would stay in motels along the way. And we would be in like the family van. We would pack the like red cooler in the back with like our snacks. And to me, that was so amazing. Like I was such an imaginative kid. So I'd be like, oh, I have a rich uncle that owns all these hotels because all I had seen was motels. So I thought they were the most luxurious thing ever. It's like, I have a rich uncle that owns all these motels and he loves to like have me come. So I just had this whole vision of like this journey in my head. But I just love the experience of sleeping somewhere new and experiencing a different place as a kid. So that has like transitioned into me being a hotel girly now. Like I love a great hotel. But most of my traveling when I was younger was through books. So I read Harry Potter series growing up. So I imagine myself in like London and England. I would like listen to music like The Lion King. I remember in fifth grade we did get to travel to Toronto, Canada, which is closer to us than New York City is. So it was just like a straight shot up, and we got to see The Lion King live as a musical. And I remember that experience being like, okay, this is what happens when you leave home. Like the world is so big and huge, and wanting to have that experience. But the first time I really got to travel was in undergrad. I studied abroad in Hungary and Romania. I studied race and ethnic relations for the Roma population, which is a nomadic population in that area. So that was my first real abroad experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how kids travel. Like that's one of my favorite things about traveling with my kids is because they like find that grandeur. And I even remember one of my daughters being like, "This hotel's nice, but the ones where you like park outside and all the doors are on the outside are super fun." And I was like, "Oh, that's so funny that, just the way you see things and imagine things and create stories in your mind," which I was like you, that my mind is constantly like just creating a story. So it didn't really matter where I was or what I was doing. I was able to make magic happen, I guess. Um, and similarly, like books were my escape. I grew up in a small town and just reading about all of these characters in these places, you're like, well, I know the world has to be bigger than where I am because we couldn't have come up with all of these stories if everyone lived in this little town like I do.
Yes, definitely, definitely relate. So I grew up in a religious family. So we were Pentecostal, and our church was right across the street from the public library. And we would go to church Monday, Thursday, and twice on Sunday. But Monday nights, I could get out of going if I went to the library. So that was my like little escape, both from like being in church all of the time and like my escape from this small town where I was like, oh, there's all these little girls that have lives that are so different than me. And I can't wait to be an adult and get to experience them.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you studied abroad in college. How do you think that began to shape your relationship with travel and the experiences that you offer now?
I think that being my first real experience really traveling made the intersection of learning and traveling very fundamental to me. So for me, traveling wasn't just about going to a place just for the sake of going, but it was about learning about the history of a place, the culture of a place, like what are all the things that led up to this moment that is grounding my experience. So I think that very much informs the type of travel that we do with book trips. It's not only about the story that we're reading together, but also the story of the place that we're visiting through the eyes of the local people that are our guides, that are the artisans that we're working with, our restaurant owners, our drivers. Like, how do you situate a place as not just an Instagram backdrop, but somewhere that has a political, a cultural history that you're diving into?
Yeah, I feel like that's so important. And I was thinking, as you were talking, a lot of times I say that travel to me feels like kind of unwrapping the story of a place. Like you're almost like turning the page as you walk through, right? I probably just see it that way because of that relationship I have, but it to me it has always created a relationship where I think the place, and this maybe will sound weird out of context, but that the place exists and I'm traveling there. Whereas I think a lot of people think, we were just talking about this actually. I was just at a conference, and Beth Santos brought up the idea of place versus destination. And to me, the difference between that is that, like, destination feels like something to be consumed and like it maybe only exists for us to be there, and to meet our needs, versus a place exists whether we're there or not, and we're becoming a part of it for a moment, but it doesn't exist simply for the travel experience to happen. And so I feel like kind of the way you are talking about it, it's the same thing, right? Like it's a privilege to be there, and the more context you have about all of the different elements of place, the more you can connect to it and understand it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that juxtaposition between a place and a destination, because I think there's the type of travel which isn't good, bad, or otherwise, but that's like checking off the bucket list. Like I've always wanted to do Machu Picchu or the Great Wall of China or whatever these big experiences are that are amazing to have. But then the place orientation is more of leaving room for surprise and delight and to be challenged, and for your experience and itinerary to change based on, I met someone, we had a great conversation, and I want to stay at this dinner longer, and I don't want to feel like I have this other thing I need to rush off to, or they recommended this restaurant I had never heard of in my life, and I want to have the flexibility to do that. So I think interacting with travel as an experience that's actively unfolding in a mutually adaptable relationship, I think, is what the aim is for me, for it to be a story that we're writing in the moment.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay, so then if your travelers are already kind of connected because of a experience they had with a book, you provide additional, like, modern context or any education prior to them traveling, or have conversations before you travel outside of the book?
So most of the context setting happens on the ground. So what the process looks like is 3 to 4 months before the trip, our travelers receive a booked box that has our selected trip read, curated items from local artisans that connect to either the book or the place that we're going to, and then a playlist with sounds of the city. So local artists and music from historical to the present to kind of ground you in that piece of it. And then 30 days before the trip, we have a traveler information session where they meet our on the ground partners who do a little bit of context setting of like, here are the norms, here are some things to be aware of when you're on the ground, and like how we do travel and how we engage with communities as partners. But a lot of it happens on the ground. So our first day of every trip is our opening dinner and book discussion, where we have a dinner that's inspired by local cuisine of the place. We have a discussion of the book and really delve a little bit deeper. And then every day thereafter on the trip is inspired by a quote from the book. And so it's what cultural experience directly connects to that quote and gives you a deeper sense of the place that we're in.
Mhm. I just want to geek out so bad right now. That I just love it so much. Like I really, really have to take a trip. I keep stalking your itineraries to figure out which one is going to work in my schedule. But it's like, oh, it's the best idea for people who love books. Truly, I'm sure they're going to listen to this and they're going to be swooning in the same way, because the thing about a book is you're always kind of imagining yourself in it anyway, right? And like the idea that you actually could do that is kind of mind-boggling to me. Um, what the other thing that I wanted to ask you out before we kind of get more into this aspect is I know you studied, you mentioned public policy and sociology. So I wonder too if that shapes your relationship with travel and how you want travelers to kind of move through the world.
I definitely think it shapes my lens in terms of the types of books I select and the itineraries that I build. Um, so I would say earlier this year in April, we went to Cape Town, South Africa, and we're going to go again next year to Johannesburg and Cape Town, South Africa. And that book is Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. Everybody knows Trevor Noah from The Daily Show and is really excited about that. But what I love about that book is it sets a historical context for apartheid and what that looks like as a mixed race or colored individual. Like, what were the political implications of moving through the world that way? And I think that's important context for someone traveling to South Africa. Our first trip there, we read Intruders by Mohali Mashigo. So she's a local South African writer, and she really talks about what is it like to feel like an intruder in your own country. So even though Black South Africans are the majority of the population, they're the overwhelming minority in terms of ownership of land, of businesses, and so really want. I have a political point of view in terms of like what are the kind of stories that you might not hear about a place that I want to uplift in the type of work that I do.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. I also have a degree in sociology, so that lens is something that I think I inherently look at. And when I traveled early before I got that degree, and then like gaining that knowledge later and looking back, I can kind of remember traveling and being in situations where I was thinking, this feels uncomfortable, or this feels like just yucky is the word that comes to mind, but like I really didn't have language for it because there wasn't language. But after I studied and as I've learned more, like I would realize what I was sensing are those stories that you're mentioning, or power dynamics, or something feeling kind of extractive and consumptive. And I felt like I didn't want to be a part of it, but it looked like that's what travel was. And so then I wasn't sure how to do it different, but I just knew it was something was off. And then, like I said, as I studied sociology, and then as I studied sustainable destination management, and then like the conversations we've had since 2020 really have provided a lot more clarity and depth and nuance. Like all these things began to understand like what yucky was, in that initial just like that instinct. And so those conversations I think can be really hard to have without having a way to examine them. So I love that these books allow you to kind of maybe even see a perspective that's not yours, but are truly related to the experience in that place, and to just start to be able to have a relationship with that experience. I think it's really important, and I think a really overlooked piece of travel for many people, because they're staying pretty surface wherever they are. And this depth, I think, is super, super powerful.
Thank you so much. And when you were talking about that yucky feeling, I could relate to that a lot. So, in my professional life before this, I've worked in nonprofits and philanthropy for nearly 15 years. And so I think that also informs the community focus of my work. So I've worked in racial justice, specifically in health equity, um, housing, and education have been my focus areas throughout my career. And so really thinking intentionally about how can we use our tourism dollars as an economic driver and being really intentional about our choices. Because sometimes I think these political or policy questions can feel overwhelming to people when they're like, how can I understand the whole context of a place that I've just come
Mhm.
to? But I can be intentional about who I pick to be my drivers, what restaurants I go to, what kinds of experiences that I'm having, what kind of hotels I'm choosing. Like those are actual individual choices that feel like more within reach for people.
Mhm. When you do that, I assume you be like me, like you'll build that in to the trip as you're creating it, and so it's happening behind the scenes. How much of that is conveyed to your travelers, and how much do they understand those choices that you've made and how that is shaping their experience.
Yeah, so we make that explicit on our website and then on our trip interest form. So every trip, people fill out a trip interest form before they put their deposit just to make sure there's alignment and they understand what kind of trip they're signing up for and that we're really curating a group that has differing perspectives but can complement one another. And so we have four pillars to all our trips that travelers are told about before arrival, which is first, travel solo but never alone. So we combine the freedom of solo travel and the joy of being part of a group of like minded women. Then find your community. So we really focus on what are the relationships that we're building and how are we. That's why our trips are maxed out at 12 people. Like every experience is at the size of conversation and connection. So knowing that that's intentionally built in and then supporting local entrepreneurs, so we prioritize partnerships with Black, Brown, and Indigenous local experts. From our book boxes, we partner with indie bookstores. Our artisans are all local from the economy and a small business, either in the place that we're visiting or somewhere around the world. And then each of our vendors are small businesses that are based in the place that we're in. So all the companies, the money is staying in the place that we're going to. And then the fourth pillar is just your trip, your way. So that flexibility piece, because I know that a lot of group travel can feel like we're following the flag from place to place, but knowing that everything is included, but everything is also optional. So if there is something really interesting that you find, you can break off from the group, or you have other travelers that might want to do something on the side with you. So just really building in that flexibility. So those kind of things are very explicit in what they're signing up for.
Yeah, thank you. That's funny that you went through that because I had a note here about going through your website and finding the section that really resonated. Well, one, I loved the transparency, but two, all of the points resonated, and it was the what makes a book trip experience and all of those elements that you just walked us through. But I do think it's really important, and um, you mentioned, applying to take a trip. I also have a similar form because it's so much about curating also who travels together, to create this community and making sure that this is the experience that people are looking for. I know that that's something sometimes I get pushback, or, people are used to just going on booking.com or hotels.com or whatever, and you just buy the trip. And this idea that you have to not really interview, but it is kind of an interview process or an understanding is really different for some travelers. What has that experience been like for you when people do you engage with them in that process, or is it really just a form? Do you have a follow-up conversation? Because I tend to end up having a follow-up conversation with most people.
Yeah, so I haven't gotten pushback from it, but I'm sure there might be quicker signups if there wasn't like a whole form to fill out. But after they fill out the interest form, then I follow up for a conversation, just like acknowledging areas of synergy, answering any questions, or letting them know some things that might be concerns, like if there's a physical rigorous thing and they might have had a surgery recently or things like that. So just making sure that there's a conversation piece and they know there's the other person on the other end of it that's actually reading it and interacting with it. And I also think for the community building piece, it's really helpful for that. So we ask people what are some of the favorite books that they always recommend to people. Like, tell me a little bit about who you want other people to know you as. So it also provides them a new opportunity to shape themselves outside of their jobs. Because a lot of our travelers are professional women, so it's a chance to introduce yourself on your own terms. And also, that's a way pre-trip we package all those up into traveler profiles, so you know who you're traveling with before you hit the ground. And there's that synergy. But we haven't gotten much pushback from those, but yeah, for me, the reason I do it is, of course, for Trip Fit, but also because I do want it to be a relationship. So I don't want it to just be a stranger that we don't meet until you hit the ground and you don't know anything about me. I don't know anything about you. We don't know if there's values alignment because I think some of that could potentially create friction. Like I think it minimizes some of the friction on the trip if you already have a shared sense of how we're coming to this place and why we're coming to this place. So that's why it's important for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And even as you were speaking, I was thinking that that process probably automatically like pairs off some of the people that it's probably not right for, right? The people that see that and go through the process are already starting to feel seen and cared for and acknowledged. And that's a part of, I think, what we're offering too is you to really be a person having this experience, not just, someone coming on my trip. Like there's a real intimacy to the whole process. Um, and I also do, a connection call before we travel. And it's so great because when you get there, instead of the circle of women who are strangers, like standing there kind of awkwardly waiting to know what's going to happen, it's like people seeing each other in the lobby and like running and hugging each
Yeah.
other, like on day one, and like already crying because they're so happy to see each other. And like when I see that happen, I'm just like, I mean, this is it. We don't even have to leave this lobby. Like we already did good things.
I totally agree because on that, so we have our trip to Accra, Ghana next week. It starts next Thursday. It starts around Homegoing by Ya Jesse. And on the pre-travel call, the majority of the women had never traveled to the continent of Africa at all. So it really did feel like a homecoming for them. So there was that emotional connection of like, I've always wanted to go, and this just felt like the perfect way to go. And so seeing that other people felt that same way, and they're not the only people that this is their first time. And then we have a group WhatsApp chat that we have leading up to the trip. So right after the pre-travel call, they all join the group chat and they talk about like what outfits are Black people. So the majority of our travelers are Black. We do have women from all backgrounds, but the majority are Black. We love a theme, and so people are always like, so what is our coordinated color? What are we wearing for the dinners? So like those kind of conversations and excitement. I think to your point, when you hit the ground, it doesn't feel like these are strangers and I don't know anyone. There is some kind of relationship that you have before you hit the ground. And I think also starting the trip in conversation about a book. So I too am an introverted person. And so sometimes those cold openers where it's just like we're in a room and we have to figure out how to network is really hard versus we're coming into the room and there's discussion questions, like somebody's facilitating the space. So I know somebody else is holding it and I will have some natural ways to connect and I don't have to feel like I have to proactively do it. I think also creates that calmness where okay, I can just show up, somebody's holding this container for me.
Hmm. I love that you mentioned being introverted because I also am. And it's funny that we would be choosing this space for like meeting other people. But again, I think we create the spaces we need to kind of like heal and grow and feel safe. And so it also totally makes sense. Um, but I think then we're really present to that for others is like, they might feel uncomfortable in this space. How can I create something a little bit more like a softer landing instead of something that's going to feel really jarring?
Yeah, and I think so many of us we create these companies to fill a niche that we saw. Like there was something we desired to see in the world and didn't see it. And for me, as a Black woman who traveled solo a lot, and then I would join these large groups who it already felt like people knew each other, like it would be families coming together or couples coming together, and I'd be the oddball out in a variety of ways. Um, or it would feel like I'm very interested in having conversations that are just a little bit deeper than what's happening, and I want to connect with other people who want to get like down in the nitty gritty. So I am not like a how's the weather? I'm like, oh, so tell me about your childhood traumas. Like I am that person. So really like creating a container in a space that can be that. And I think the most exciting thing is finding out other people wanted that too. And I think that's probably your experience when you create it. You realize there are people who are just waiting for you in particular to come provide it.
Yeah. The idea of deep conversations right off is also like my love language. And before I got on this call with you, I was letting you know that I just spent the week with one of our mutual colleagues, friends, people, Iris Sibinescu from Women's Work, which is where I mentioned we met, and we would have these like 10-minute coffee break, between things, and we would sit down for a second, and it would take about like 42 seconds, and it was like that, like, childhood trauma, and we're like, wait, how did we get here this quickly? And then we're like, okay, now we have to run to our next session and learn about SEO marketing, but let's come back to this in just a second. um and I was like, oh, I'm so grateful for people like that, because I always thought I was horrible at networking, horrible at socializing, horrible at being around people. But it was because I just don't have the skill to try to figure out what to say if it doesn't mean something to my heart. Um, so I think that's um, it's just really powerful to learn that about yourself and realize that actually maybe you're not unable to communicate. It's just that communication is really important and sacred, and like it's really hard to mess around with something that doesn't feel that good. But I did want to talk about women's work, since we had that experience, not at the same time, but we kind of wove together. I love that program so
Yes.
much.
Iris is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, we'll fangirl there too. But I wanted to hear from you about your experience. Like, what were you looking for when you found it? And what did it mean to you in the journey of creating your business?
Yeah, so Book Church is still a baby in the game. So we celebrate our 2-year anniversary on Monday. And so October 7th
Oh,
for
congrats.
people who are listening to this. Um, and so when I came to women's work last year, it was very much I had this idea of creating a connection between my work I had done in philanthropy and my love of books and travel. And then I had created book trips. I put it out there. Um, the first trip, 7 people that were loosely connected to me came, and we went to Mexico City for Day of the Dead and did an experience around like water for chocolate. So, which is perfect because it's all about food. Mexico City is a food city. And then more people wanted to come. And so it just grew into this thing. And so when I came to women's work, I was really looking for the back end, like how do you run a travel company? Because I came from the like, here's a need, here's my passion. Um, and I built it and people liked it, but I didn't have the sense of what are all the infrastructure pieces that you need to run a travel company? What are the terminologies that you need to know? What are the relationships that you need to build? Um, I come from the nonprofit sector where we don't have to think about profit motive driving everything. But when you're running a business, profit motive is a thing now. So I was really looking for like those kind of foundational understandings of what does it mean to build a business. And also I wanted to be in relationship with other women who were doing similar things. And I think that's one of the biggest values of women's work. The content is amazing. I will say that. Like we have the best speakers come in. Um, and I just think what Iris and the team have done there, like you come out of that with the best network of people. But I think the camaraderie of having a space to come and say, I don't know how to do this. Have you ever had this experience? Or somewhere to go and you're like, this is an amazing thing that happened to me. And there's a group of other women that are just as excited as you are about your wins. I think that was so valuable and a thing that I feel like I um, not underappreciated, but that wasn't the top of mind for me, but it became such an important part because the entrepreneurship journey, I tell people all the time, it feels like therapy, like you come up against yourself in ways that I don't think many other experiences give you. For me, it was like people pleasing and boundaries and like how do you disconnect your sense of self-worth from what you're doing in the world? Like all of those things were coming up and we had a place to talk about that. So one of our early sessions was about mindset. And I don't think a lot of business accelerators start there. They start around like marketing and finance and operations. But this was really about like how do you grapple with your inner stuff because that shows up in your business world. And so I think that was just such a valuable experience in women's work. Will forever be one of the most phenomenal experiences I've had.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think, what you were saying is the strategic, tactical things feel really important and are necessary, but it's the other parts, kind of much like travel, that become the really important and valuable parts. And I always wonder about entrepreneurs and like their soul journey because as you mentioned, like you do not get out of this, or I have not met someone who's gotten out of this without learning a lot more about yourself than you thought you would learn. And like you said, the challenges that come up, it's like living therapy. Yes, like you're just like, what? I didn't know that was a trigger. Oh, I didn't know I've been carrying that with me. Oh, I didn't know I'm going to have to tear that down before I can figure out what my CRM system is. I don't know. It's just, it's like the craziest experience. But I also think for the travel that we're creating, that is actually a super important part of how we can offer what we want to offer most because we actually have been kind of forced through some of that inner excavation that we have maybe just a way of appreciating that and what our travelers might be going through in their traveling journey because would believe for you it's the same. Like many of our travelers will sign up because they love the destination or they love the book or they're looking for community. They don't realize how much is going to happen while they're traveling, or even if that's our intention, it's still a really powerful space, especially I think for communities of women aligned by this like need to have something more while they're traveling. How has that shown up for your communities, or what does that look like and feel like? Have you been surprised by what women go through and share with one another? Is it something you expected? You know, kind of in that container.
To the surprise piece, I think it's a yes and no question. I think what isn't surprising is how deep people go because of my experiences in book club meetings. And so I feel like book clubs are this place where you start talking about a book, but then it balloons out into all these bigger conversations that you didn't have the container or the space for before. So in all of my book club conversations, it becomes conversations about loss, about what you fear, about what you dream. Um, because there's just books give you a platform for this thing is happening to a character and it's happening to me too. And now I get a chance to tell other people, and there's just so few spaces where people can can have that platform or where people ask the deep questions, and I think books ask us the deep questions and provide us the opportunity to engage with them, with other people, so that part's not surprising that people go deep, and have those epiphanies. I think what is surprising and delightful to me every time is the relationships that get built and how quickly they get built. And I guess that's just like when you're thrown into this place where I don't know any other people, you're automatically just more open and susceptible to wonder and connection. But it's still every time when I see those, like, real friendships get built, it just delights me to no end. So, we keep the group chats open, and for the Mexico City trip that happened in May, 2 of the travelers well, 4 of the travelers actually, had met up in there, like, they had traveled to see each other afterwards, so, like, seeing that there's these long-lasting relationships that are not just this one-off, but, like, that people have found their people, they found their community, and for our alumni, they're always asking, like, "Okay, can we have alumni-only trips? Because these are my friends, and I would love to meet up with them again." So, I think that's surprising to me, just, like, how connected people feel to each other.
Yeah, it's a powerful experience to go through. I think there's two kind of myth bustings, I guess, that we're doing is that a lot of times when you say I have a women's book club, people picture the like romance novel, wine, never talk about the book, right? And I have been in those book clubs. Or maybe it's a great book, but then half the people read it and you still never really talk about it. And I would always be really frustrated because I'm like, I read it, I highlighted, I took an outline, I'm really ready for this conversation. I'm like, put the wine down, I want to talk about the book. And the same thing with group travel. Sometimes, especially for women, there might be this perception, and maybe this is a media created perception, again, that it's like gonna just be like there's like three different movies going through my mind, and I can't think of the name of any, but like just again, like this spring fling kind of idea, and the depth is getting missed. But every every experience that I've ever been a part of or near, or any of the women I know who run trips for women, it's just absolutely untrue. Like there's so much depth available, and I just think it's really powerful and beautiful. And that when if people are really looking for that in their lives, like, I hope they find this, because I don't know what the greater narrative is out there, but I feel like people are always surprised when I meet them at a travel show or I'm telling them about my business. They're like, this exists. Oh my God. I'm just like, I'm dying for this experience. I have been looking for that. And I don't know if you hear that too, but it's like this idea of depth in groups of women still feels surprising to some people.
Yeah, I do think there's also this narrative about like groups of women can't get along. Like I don't know where that comes from because I don't experience that, but I hear that where people are afraid like will it get catty or whatever things. But I think what helps with that is that's why framing and perspective is so important. So I think the type of people who are looking for a book inspired experience, who want to have an immersive experience, who want to invest in local communities, that's a particular type of person, anyways. And I think that allows for different kinds of connections to happen because those are the type of people who are looking to go beneath the surface, who are interested and curious and open-minded because book people you go into books to discover an experience that is not like yours. And so I think it lends you to be just more open for travel and connection. Um, and I also think some of it is the container itself, like how our trip leaders, our tour guides providing the space for conversation and doing probing in a way that invites a little bit of depth. So for every trip, when we have our opening dinner and book discussion, the first question we ask are, who are your people? So we don't come as just independent people with no history ourselves. So who are the people that make you you? So my people are like people who love a living room dance party, because that is me. People who are a little bit quirky, who are a little bit introverted until you get among the right people. People who care about social justice. So we all start talking about like who are the type of people that are our people, and you start to hear the commonalities and you realize, oh, these two are my people. This room is my people. And so I think that framing to start helps to create connection. So just thinking intentionally, how are you building the experience and the itinerary in a way that creates these opportunities for that?
Mm. I'm like, also, you're just my people. I'm like, I love that list of like loves. And I think it's so valuable too, because I might think, oh, it's peculiar that I love books and social justice and travel and, you know, whatever my laundry list of things I love. Like to me, they feel a little bit weird sitting on the shelf together. But that validation when you also see someone else being like, oh, that's the thing I also like pick up and love, I think it's really special. And to be honest about what those things are too, because I think, you know, we all curate this version of ourselves, especially in today's day and age where literally we're curating images of ourselves online. And I think that freedom to just honor whatever that is super special. And the other thing that you mentioned that really resonated for me is the way that books help us discover things about ourselves or give us new language about ourselves, and like become a huge part of our growth journey. I know there's the genre of personal development and spiritual development and things like that. Like those are books I love, but it isn't necessarily just those books that teach us things. And those books sometimes don't even teach us the things I think they thought they might. But when you have those conversations with other women, like in my book sojourn that I do, like you said, like you'll start here and then you're off on this path, and then what that has allowed women in that container to share and process together, and then the action that's come out of it, it feels also sacred. This is the word I'll use all the time, but like that people let us be a part of that journey, I can't even believe. And it has truly changed people's lives. And it sounds corny and cheesy and all the things, but that ability to safely examine scary or uncomfortable parts of your life with others and have them validate you, like right there, that they see and feel and recognize how important that is to you, like gives people strength in a way that we don't really truly appreciate. And I like just here for that experience happening over and over again. Yeah. The other thing you mentioned way back is people sharing the books they always recommend. I want to ask you, what are the books you always recommend?
Oh, this is so hard because I have so many. Um, mm, How We Show Up by Mia Birdsong, I think is great for people who are very interested in conversations about friendship and community that's not centered in the nuclear family or in romantic relationship, but how do we create more expansive ways of belonging to one another? I love, love, love that book and will always talk about it. Um, I love Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francesca Ekuyasi. It's just like a delicious book. So it's set between Nigeria and Canada, and the dishes mentioned in the book are just like you can taste them. So I did a anniversary dinner last year around that book in partnership with Eats and Beats, and so we created a playlist and a 10 item or 10 chapter menu that was inspired by dishes from the book. So just that experience of being able to have a dinner around it. I love that book. I would say Beyond the Shores, A History of African Americans Abroad by Tamara Walker. I recommend that one because I think there's this conversation, particularly in communities of color or Black communities, about like being expats or travel that feels like, oh, this is something new. But this takes it for, we've been traveling for nearly 100 years. And the book talks about Black people abroad in areas as diverse as Russia, France, Uzbekistan, Kenya, Argentina. So just, I think that's great for having a more expansive view of Black people in travel. So I always recommend that. And then I like a little drama and a little mess. So You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akweke Emzi. I'm not usually a romance girl, but that gave me the right amount of dark drama mess that just it does it for me. So I also often recommend that. Favorite authors are Kiese Layman, um, Adrienne Marie Brown, Toni Morrison, and I also love she did The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, Deisha Philyaw. She actually is the inspiration behind book trips. So I was reading The Secret Lives of Church Ladies during the pandemic, and it's a short story collection. And there was this one short story about peach cobbler. And I was like, oh, I would love to do a peach cobbler making class in Savannah, Georgia with a group of women over a weekend. And then I was like, oh, wait, there's a lot of experiences that you could do around books, and so that was really the book that started my thinking around book trips being a thing. So those are I'll pause there, but those are top of mind, some books that I love to recommend.
Mm. Oh my gosh, they all sound really beautiful, and I love that there's not one there that I know. So that makes me really, really happy. Which I think that's the other magic about books, right? Everybody has the stories that resonate with who they are, and so we kind of put different piles around us because I'm sure you're like me and you have piles of books probably literally within arm's reach. Um, yeah, because they're like an extension. I mean, I can't get rid of my books because they are a part of me. Like the idea, I don't know if you know, like the Marie Kondo or whatever, you should only have 5 books or something like that. And I
No,
was like,
I repeat that.
that's never
Return to
happening.
sender. Will not accept.
Yeah. I'm like 5 shirts, fine. 5 books,
Right.
never. I was just trying to think of like recently, or when people think about maybe travel books or women's spirituality or those things that are kind of really in my heart right now. I always love The Alchemist, which is kind of a tried and true, but it's one that like every time I read it, I just pick up something different and it's super small. So I feel like it's accessible. It's got a lot in it and it's super simple at the same time. Like, I'm like, it's the most magical book. It feels like sorcery almost. It's like yeah, I can't even. And then like I'll finish it and then I'll be like, was that the end? I feel like I have to start over already. Like every time. I'm like, I don't know what's happening with that book. Um, and then I really love The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. I don't know if you've read that one, but it's just really beautifully written and it really speaks to like the story of women in a unique way. Like I really love it. Even though it's fiction, it feels so true in my heart that I'm just like mesmerized by it. And then much like you, like using books as a way to understand cultures that we're not a part of or experiences that we've never had, I think is valuable. And one book that I love was The Namesake, which is a lot older book, and I'll probably say her name wrong because it's Indian and I'm not sure, but it's Jhumpa Lahiri.
Yes.
That book is just I don't know again what was about it, but I read it and I was like, "Man, I was just meant to read this book." Like, I just deeply love this story so much, and it was something I had no relationship to any of those experiences. Like, it's just so far from my lived experience, but I just loved it so much. Like, I just wanted it to be a part of me. So, yeah.
I love that. I love those ones. And I feel like Junkpa's, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing their name correctly, but the backlist is thorough. Like no misses.
Yeah. And I know there was another one, by the same author that I can't think of right now, but anyone listening, I would probably be sure if you love books, all of these will be great ones to tap into. Well, I really appreciate this conversation so much. It has like flown by for us, which should not be surprising. I know you have a few new trips coming out. I don't know if there's spoilers or if you just want to let people know that they're coming and where to find you so that they can look for them.
Sure. So for 2025, currently on the books, we have a March trip to Panama, which is sold out, unfortunately. And we have an April trip, April 4th through 15th, to Johannesburg and Cape Town, South Africa. We're reading Trevor Noah's Born a Crime, and there are 3 spots still available for that. So would love to have some folks there. In November, we are going to be announcing a few additional trips, so there is still opportunities to connect. This is a little bit of a spoiler, but it might not be by the time that you hear this. So we're going to have a March trip to New Orleans for the New Orleans Book Festival, and we're going to do an experience around Charisma Price's book, I'm Always So Serious. So it's a poetry collection that really gets to the sense of mourning, loss, and joy that is the experience of New Orleans post Katrina. It's so beautifully written. So very excited about that. We're going to be going back to Ghana in October of 2025 around Homegoing by Ya Jesse, which is a multi-generational story of 2 half sisters that are split. One stays in Ghana and one goes to the United States, and it follows their lineage through American slavery and then what's happening with colonialism on the continent. And then they meet back up at the end. So it's a really beautiful book, and we'll be going back for that. And then in November, we're going to go to Morocco. And so we're going to be focused on women artisans in Morocco and their stories. So really excited for that experience too. So that's what's to come. And then we'll also be doing some dinner series, so some domestic opportunities for folks to connect over books. So this way, you don't have to leave your home and your country to travel to other places. So we'll be having some custom menus for different locations like Trinidad and Tobago, Japan, where you'll get the experience and taste of those without having to leave the US.
I love it. Again, I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so quit my job and just start following you around the world." And that's what I really need to be my job is just, like, other people's trips. It's like a food writer, but and it's not just a travel writer because it's not the same thing, but yes, I would that's, like, my dream job to be able to just experience everybody else's trips that I know are so beautiful. Yeah, it just feels like that would be a gift, but if anyone out there knows what that job is, that's what I want. Okay. Well, before we end our call, Jaleesa, I just have our rapid fire questions. And the first one, I'll be curious because this is clearly right up your alley, but what are you reading right now?
Charisma Prices, I'm always so serious. So I'm rereading that. I stayed up till 3 a.m. just with my brain firing on that one.
Yeah. What is always in your suitcase or backpack when you travel?
So I started pre-packing my carry-on bag, so it's just always ready to go. So I keep travel size toiletries on hand, snacks because I'm a snacky girl. Like I always need a snack 'cause I get hangry. I have a peppermint essential oil roll on because it calms me during flights or just any kind of like high intensity experience. Headphones to listen to music and podcasts, and then the Kindle app on my phone so I can read on the go.
Mhm. Yeah, I still bring my Kindle. Like, I finally gave up books mostly when I travel, although sometimes I still have to. And now I have my Kindle. And I saw someone reading on the plane yesterday, and I was like on their phone, I was like, "I could probably do that." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't think I can go there yet."
It's a different
Maybe in a
experience
pinch.
because there's something about the size that makes the reading experience more
Mhm.
enjoyable on a Kindle.
Yeah. Okay, next one is, to sojourn is to travel somewhere as if you live there for a short while. Where is some place that you would still love to sojourn?
I will say Japan, and it's a little bit of a cheat because I get to go at the end of this month. I'm visiting Tokyo, Hakone, Kyoto, and Kanazawa, and there are so many book-inspired things happening there that I'm excited to just, like, dive in. So there's the Jimbocho Book Town, and they have a book festival that's gonna coincide with when I'm there. I'm going to get to meet with local artisans and do kintsugi, which is like when you have a broken plate and then you pair it back together with gold. And so I'm just really excited about that and the food. Like, I have a sushi making experience, like, I'm going to get to experience the geisha or Maiko, the geisha in training. And so just I'm very excited about diving all the way in and doing all the bookish things.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What do you eat that immediately connects you to a place you've been?
I'm thinking like chilaquiles in Mexico City. So that's my top five food city, and I will get on a plane just to eat.
Mm. The food was just unbelievable, like, and not just, Mexican food or food indigenous to the region, but, like, I went to the best Thai restaurant I've ever been to in my life, and I've spent 6 weeks in Thailand, so it's saying something. Um, and yeah, there was so much good food. I took my oldest daughter who luckily loves and appreciates good food, and she just was dying. She's like, "Everything, mom, everything is so good." Like, "This muffin, have you ever seen a muffin like this?" I'm like, "No, this is insane." Yeah. Okay, I digress again, of course. Who is a person that inspired or encouraged you to set out to travel the world?
So I would think my mother is who comes first to mind. She's not a traveler. She just went on her first big international trip with me earlier this year. She was able to join me on the book trips Cape Town, South Africa experience. So her getting to go to the continent was like a huge deal for her. And I think it inspires me because it reminds me that I come from this lineage of women who didn't have the opportunities to be as free and as curious about the world as I am. So my maternal grandmother only had a third grade education, but she would write poetry in her Bible. So she was like a self-taught poet. And then my mom finally getting to travel, and now she has like the travel bug. So just knowing that I'm realizing this bigger dream and how she's always pushed me to go out into the world in ways that she couldn't, she's definitely my inspiration.
Thank you for sharing that. If you could take an adventure with one person, fictional or real, alive or past, who would it be? It's going to be a good one for you too.
I think I would pick Maya Angelou just because she's like spicy. I feel like she would show a little leg, like she'd be out for the dancing. She'd be great dinner party conversation. Like we would just get into shenanigans and be able to have really deep, meaningful conversations. She has a book, God Bless the Child That Has Traveling Shoes, about her time in Ghana in the 50s and 60s, and she was hanging out with Malcolm X and all these thought leaders where I'm like, yeah, she's the one that I want to be around for sure.
Yeah. Okay, last one. As you know, Soul of Travel is a place for celebrating and recognizing women in the industry. Who is someone that you admire that you'd like to celebrate in this space?
Ooh, there's so many. Picking one is so hard. Um, If I have to pick one, I would say Catalina Mayorga from El Camino Travel. So she also does small group travel, but she has the El Camino Clubhouse, which is like this repository of information and connection she's built for women who love off the beaten, hard to get to travel. So they do like monthly guides for different cities around the world. You can ask a question and people have recommendation. There are like travel operators and advisors in there. And just that free sharing that's happening is excellent. And then she's going into the world of AI and getting really forward thinking about tech. So she's just like the person I look to the most in travel, where I just love what she's doing and how she's doing it because she's very into socially responsible travel. So that would be the person I would pick.
Great. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate the conversation. I'm so glad we were able to make it happen between
Yes.
your trips and my trips. And can't wait to share this conversation with my listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. And just this conversation was excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Soul of Travel, presented by Journey Woman. I hope you enjoyed the journey. If you loved this conversation, I encourage you to subscribe and rate the podcast. Please share episodes that inspire you with others, because this is how we extend the impact of this show. Learn more about each of my guests by reading our episode blogs, which are more than your average show notes. I think you'll love the connection. Find our episode blogs at www.souloftravelpodcast.com. I am so proud of the way these conversations are bringing together people from around the world. If this sounds like your community, welcome. I am so happy you are here. I am all about community and would love to connect. You can find me on Facebook at Soul of Travel Podcast, or follow me on Instagram either at she.sojourns or at Soul of Travel Podcast. Stay up to date by joining the Soul of Travel Podcast mailing list. You'll also want to explore the Journey Woman community and its resources for women travelers over 50. I'd also like to share a quick thank you to my podcast producer and content magician, Carly Eduardo, CEO of Convergente. I look forward to getting to know you and hopefully hear your story.